information and make policy decisions related to the effective operations of Bloomfield Public Schools. This is a regular meeting, and all items that will be discussed or voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. As the Bloomfield Board of Education, meetings of the board are open to the public. It is the time when the board conducts its business of governing the school system in a public arena. The regular meetings are not meetings with the public. Therefore, comments from the audience will be confined to the time designated for the public to address the board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in effective public meetings. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that proceedings be accurately recorded, the board chair may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you have taken the time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school system and thank you for your interest in the Bloomfield Public Schools.
Thank you, Mrs. Bolton. Next on our agenda, our consent agenda. Mr. Walters.
Yes, I move that the Bloomfield Board of Education approve the minutes from the September 10th, 2019 regular board meeting as presented.
Is there a second? It's been properly moved and second that we accept the minutes. Any questions, edits? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It is so ordered. Recognitions, community recognition of volunteer tutors from Doncaster. Ms. McCann.
Good evening, Board Chair, Superintendent Thompson, board members, our live and television viewing audience. We know that volunteer reading tutors are crucial to our early literacy efforts and that third grade reading success matters. So it brings me great pleasure to recognize one of our community partners, the Doncaster Tutors, who have supported us throughout the years, spanning over a decade. Doncaster Tutors will be returning to the Metacomet community beginning in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Milletti, we're all set, right? Yes, sir. Okay, it pleases me to welcome our newest student reps to the Board of Education from the high school, Blake Wallace and Aliana Washington.
Okay, thank you.
You have the podium.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Aliana Washington, and this is my best friend,
Blake Wallace.
and we are Bloomfield. We are 3-season athletes with track and soccer, and we're involved in multiple activities throughout the school, such as
NHS, Student Council, Unified Sports, National Spanish Honor Society.
yes,
I got most of it.
I think so. I think you got all of it.
We're seniors, by the
Yes.
way. And
2020.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
okay, so about the first day of school, there was a Million Fathers March. And from last year, 2018 to 2019, the enrollment increased.
Yes, the classes are pretty big, but it's okay. There was an open house September 12th, and there was a high parent turnout.
About the class of 2019, where are they now? 56% attend a 4-year college.
30% attend a 2-year college.
3% are already employed.
2% are in the military,
3% attend a vocational or prep school.
and 6% are unknown.
About our football team, we remain undefeated, and we have an upcoming game against Rocky Hill at home this Friday. Our quarterback, Darren Brighton, he's a junior, and he was just named the Fox 61 Player of the Week for the Plainville game that was 2 weeks ago. And that Plainville game was also named Game of the Week.
So October 13th, I was here. I'm a cheerleader. So we went to CCSU, and it was basically like they taught classes like throughout the day. We arrived at like 7:30, and throughout the whole day until 6 o'clock, we were be able to choose the different classes we wanted to go to, whether it was hip hop or jazz, or if you want to do like yoga. They had Afro-Caribbean. It was really fun. And we were taught all these classes, and at the end of the day, we all, whoever was presenting, we presented and we performed our piece. And it was a really, really good experience. I liked it.
So BHS now offers 3 new UConn Early College Experience courses that are Essentials of Economics, Medical Terminology, and Introduction to Human Rights. I'm in the Introduction to Human Rights class where we basically just learn about the human rights that are like the UDHR and things involving the UN across the world and how it compares to what we have as human rights in the United States and what everybody as human beings have across the world.
And with these classes, you're able to gain 3 college credits.
If you pass with a C or
Yes.
higher. Our BHS boys track coach, Garfield White, was named Coach of the Year. He's a Bloomfield alumni. And last season at the state opens, the boys team won by the most points scored ever by any high school team.
Mr. Rodriguez's field ecology class went on an overnight trip to
Mount Greylock,
Mhm.
Boscombe Lodge.
in Adams, Massachusetts.
They went hiking for ecological samples, and they were comparing and contrasting these examples and these species that were collected at
Harford County. Yes.
that were collected at the lodge compared to the same types of samples collected here at Harford County, and they were able to identify taxonomic groups.
Tomorrow is SAT day. Woo! We take the SAT and
With the
grades.
essay.
Yes, and grades 9 through 11 just take the PSAT.
Very exciting. So on October 22nd, we'll be hosting a college fair for all grades, and 116 colleges will be coming.
It's from 10:30 to 11:30 in the
And
morning.
since we are seniors, we're very excited about the college applying process. My top 3 schools are Duke, University of Notre Dame, and University of North Carolina.
My top 3 schools are University of Miami, Florida State University, and Jacksonville University.
I'm going to be majoring in political science,
And I'm going to be majoring in marine biology.
so this college fair will be helping
Yes.
a lot.
Nice.
So upcoming at BHS, like I said, we have a football game versus Rocky Hill, October 18th at 7 p.m.
You can see me cheering. The college fair, October 22nd.
The National Honor Society induction ceremony will be held on October 30th at 1 p.m. in the BHS Library Media Center, and I'm also the NHS president.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Quarter 1 finishes October 30th.
Our homecoming football game versus Northwest Catholic is November 1st at 7 p.m. at BHS.
And the homecoming dance is November 2nd at 7 p.m. at BHS. Thank you.
Okay. done. Questions?
Well,
Mr. Ike?
Yes, yes. Let me ask you something. Number 1, how's the student council?
Student council is great.
Number 2, are those AP classes?
The UConn
UConn
classes
classes,
yeah,
are
they're separate.
It's like basically dual enrollment. So you're enrolled as basically a UConn student, but you're taking the UConn class at BHS.
And their weights the same.
Who teaches the classes? UConn professors?
No,
No.
BHS teachers.
Oh, okay.
That have been certified
right,
by
they have to
UConn.
be, yeah, in order to get the credits.
How come you guys moved the National Honor Society induction from the late afternoon or evening to during the day? Why'd you guys do that?
During the day last year.
It was during the day last
Before
year.
it used to be like 6 o'clock at night.
I think it's just for students.
Convenience
Oh,
and more convenience because
okay.
we're already here, so like everybody just comes in like they're all nice dressed up to
Yeah.
school, and then they just go to the ceremony after.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Mr. Walters?
Well, I don't have a question, but I like how you exchanged in your presentation. You took
you.
turns
Thank you.
presenting the information. It made it more engaging, and I think you all had a better time doing that. So thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Other questions? Okay, I've got, I enjoyed your presentation. Aliana is my next-door neighbor, by the way. But should I ask, how'd the soccer game go today, or don't ask?
You know, we played hard.
We did our best,
Okay,
I can't.
that's-
I
we
couldn't
fought hard.
play. I'm concussed, but it's okay.
but the team fought hard. You know, we're looking forward to our next game Friday versus Newington.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, lady.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank
Go
you.
study for your test.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Public PTO comment? Mr. Guzman? I'll take it, somebody signed up.
Minutes, right? Two. I am.
Ms. Lewis, I can't pronounce the first name, Lewis? Miriam. Miriam, would you give us your name, your address, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, thanks.
for
Yeah,
comment.
it's Miriam Lewis, 48 Kenwood Circle. I just wanted to come and ask for your comment and feedback on 3 issues tonight during your response time. I appreciate that there's a new kindergarten class at Laurel. Appreciate those efforts. I think that the entire school would benefit from an additional aide that could maybe float around the kindergarten classes. They're still at 18 when we were promised that they'd be at 14. Spoken to Dr. Martin and several teachers there that, you know, with special needs kids and pre-K catch-up, they would all really benefit from some extra hours during the day of some help in those classrooms. Second, I was hoping one or more of you could speak to the update on the principal search at Laurel. I think the school would benefit from some leadership and continuity that the students want to know who their principal is going to be. The teachers are eager to know who it's going to be. And then third, I wrote to you all about the election situation. I spoke about it at the last meeting. There's another election coming up November 5th. I wrote to the registrar of voters as well and alerted them to my concerns. And Dr. Martin, the interim principal at the school, also has concerns with the way that the elections are going to be run or have historically been run, even when school is canceled, that they should really be isolated to the gym. The public shouldn't be given free range of the school because there's a lot of personal information about the students. Can have a lot of implications for safety. You know, if there's child custody issues, you know, anything. Let your imagination be your guide. But I think there's no reason why we can't, from my perspective, from Dr. Martin's perspective, there's no reason why we can't just limit public access to the gym. And I'm hoping that you guys can comment on that. That's it. Thank you.
It's been our practice. We do not comment on public comment. Dr. Thompson takes copious notes, and he will respond back to you at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report. Financial report. Mr. Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. The report that is being passed around is a financial report as of October 11th, 2019, for all intents and purposes representing the first quarter of the fiscal year. As you can see on page 1, approximately 30% of the budget has yet to be expended or encumbered. Having said that, I do want to point out, as a matter of information, that at this time there are several major accounts for which funds have not been encumbered at this particular point. And I'll just mention three of the biggest ones. The pension account, there's still approximately $1.5 million that is yet to be encumbered. The other post-employment benefit account, $1.2 million that is yet to be encumbered. The tuition account, approximately $1.2 million is yet to be encumbered. And the health insurance of the of the total amount, 1.6 is yet to be encumbered. So it's fair to say that over time, those accounts and those amounts will be encumbered, reducing the balance in the accounts. Also at this time, I want to note that the number of children receiving special education services in the district has increased by 40% from last year to 417 students, which represents about 19% of our student body. 5 years ago, the number of students requiring or receiving special education services was 284 students, or 13% of the student body. Now, across the state, the number of children receiving special education services has risen. I believe the average in the state is about 16%. We're at 19%. Obviously, this has and will have an impact on the budget going forward. We will continue to monitor the contractual class size limits that are established in the BEA contract, as well as abide by the individualized educational programs that have been set aside for all the children receiving special education services. So we want to ensure that we're compliant with state and federal law in that regard. So this is obviously something that is impacting the district and impacting the budget, and we'll monitor it and report to you as we go through the year. That's my report. I don't know if you have specific questions on the summary report or in the line item report, 6-page report.
Okay.
Well, I have a question.
Hold on, please. Ms. Bolton.
Thank you. So thank you so much for the report and for the information. And as a result of the 40% increase of students requiring special ed services, bringing the total to 19%, what is the current impact on the budget?
We have several accounts, as you can see, if you go to page 1, for instance, on the 6-page report. Right now, in a variety of accounts, you'll notice negative balances, salaries for teachers.
So does that mean that you've hired additional teachers?
Hired additional teachers and paraprofessionals, behavioral analysts. Those accounts are being impacted by the cost of special education in particular. So you'll see that line 1110 is impacted, as well as 1210, which is the paraprofessional staff, and so forth and so on down the line. And there's a nexus with special education in all those positions.
So,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. So this, and I know that, as a result of, who the student, that they're students, I'm just wondering, are these students, were they identified in district, or are they new to our district?
I don't have the specific answer, but my guess is that it's a combination of the two. Some coming into the district, moving into the district with those, with an IEP,
Right.
and then some that we identified as well through the process.
Real big increase.
Yeah.
It's a combination of the two. What we can do, at our next committee meeting, we can give you a breakdown.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know those who have moved to the district that require those services, and also those students who have been with us now require those
Right.
services. So we can give you that breakdown.
That would be good. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
That was my question.
Oh, okay.
I want to know that.
Yeah, I sort of.
Mr. Ike?
That was a follow-up, because I saw a lot of negatives already, only in October.
True.
What's the action plan?
One of the things I can say is that, again, it's only October. There are revenues coming into the district that are not in this document at this particular point, because we haven't posted them. But those revenues will offset many of these negatives. I'm not too sure they're going to wipe them out completely, but we do have revenues coming in from other districts that send their children to our magnet schools. They pay tuition, and so those amounts, those revenue amounts will be coming in, and once they're posted, they'll be offsetting many of these numbers here. When we do our budget at the beginning of the year, we budget net of any revenues. So we have an estimate of what the revenues are going to be. So when we have, let's say there's a line item of $1 million, and we know we're going to have some revenue coming in for $200,000, we put in the budget $800,000. So we budget net. So we're waiting for those numbers to come in from the various school districts that send their children to either any of our schools, but principally the two magnet schools. Same thing holds true for the excess cost grant. Excess cost grant is for outside placements. There's an estimated, if you look in the budget book in the back, you'll see. We estimate what the grant is going to be, and we budget the net amount that goes into the budget, so we're not double counting, if you will.
Just one last.
So it's a working document.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just last
Go
one
ahead.
thing. There's some, in the air, that there's going to be some special meeting between the town council and the board of education regarding finance.
Not right now.
Anybody know anything about that?
Not right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Ike, Mrs. Bolton, and then Mrs. Davis.
And I'll release my time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
She said she released her time to Pat.
No, I said Howard.
Oh. You gotta make sure.
Just for clarification, item 1231, what is ABAA? And my second question is, are the solar cells up and running yet, or now, is that generating?
This one here?
Yeah.
If they're on the verge of starting up. There's still workers out there coming in, and at this particular point, I think they're just fine-tuning the program, but I haven't heard that it's officially on. Number one, ABAA is a behavioral analyst that we hire for children whose needs are such that, because of their behavior, require one-on-one supervision.
All right, thank you. And at some point in the future, hopefully you'll have some additional information regarding how much we are saving with the solar cells and how we're spreading that about.
Sure.
Thank you, thank you.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes, Mr. Guzman, 40% increase in special education students is alarming to me. Has this been broken down by grade level in any way, shape, or form, or is this, you're just saying this blanket across the district?
No. We have, there's a deep analysis that's been provided for the, that we have, and it's across the district. Many of them are at the lower levels.
Or at the elementary school level?
Yes. So what we can do when we do the analysis we're doing for the children who are in district and those coming in, we can also provide that breakout by grade of the 417 students.
Yeah, because I think that's very important
Sure.
as we move fiscally, because who we're going to put in place, because that's very important in how the funds are utilized, if there is any additional, because that's very concerning.
Yes. So we'll have that data as well in that report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there, we can't control
No, we
these
can't.
numbers, though. That's even more concerning because we don't have control over who comes into the district that have IEPs. So it's, as you said earlier, it's a working document.
Yeah.
So our control in terms of how we manage that is very limited. Yet 40% is alarming, but it's somewhat out of our control in terms of who we can say, yes, come in, or no, you can't, because if they are moving into the town and they're moving in with children who have special needs, we have to provide those services to them.
Mr. Goodman, for a point of clarification, the 40% represents from what year to now?
2013, 2000, first of all,
So it wasn't a 40% from last year to
This
this
year.
year. It's a 40% from 2013.
no, from last year to this year was a 3% increase.
Oh, okay.
That's all it was from this
That's
year
why
to
I
that
wanted
year.
clarification.
no.
Yeah, well, that's
Because, no, that 40 number was not a percentage. That was an actual number of children, for an increase of 40 students, representing a 2% increase from last year to this year. It's 40 additional students. Did I say 40%?
Yes, you said 40%.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
we are positive. We are positive,
Then
yeah.
I apologize. I apologize. I
Okay,
apologize.
all
Thank you,
right.
Superintendent.
For clarifying that, clearing that up for us. Yeah,
Of course it is.
Are there any other questions?
no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. We have nothing under old business tonight. Under new business, 2018-21 District Plan of Excellence, Dr. Silver.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Krista.
Yes, good evening,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman Harris, Dr. Thompson, and our board members, as well as our community. I am absolutely delighted and honored to be sharing with you tonight our 2018 to 2021 District Plan of Excellence. Is that-
Pull it down. There you go.
There we go. All right, this plan represents the third three-year plan under Dr. Thompson's leadership. And a strategic plan is the way we do business in Bloomfield. This plan was crafted over the course of the 2018 to 19 school year, primarily by the district data team. And this team is comprised of teachers, school leaders, central office leaders, and non-certified staff. Later in the school year, we will provide you with updates on our plan. But tonight, I just want to introduce that plan to you. So our purpose is to share the 2018-21 District Plan of Excellence. And our process, we have an overview. You have copies of the plan in your folders. And the payoff, of course, is that we can maintain a clear focus on the 4 district priorities. Now, as you peruse the document in your folders, note that we have highlighted some of the new initiatives in your copies of the plan because we wanted to be efficient with our delivery of the information. So there are copies in the back of the room for anyone who would like a copy. But on page 1, we have our table of contents, and this is similar to past plans. On the next page, we have a message from our superintendent of schools, Dr. James Thompson. And there's a lot of very good information in that message. And then on the next page, on page 3, we have the purpose for the plan, as well as our vision and theory of action for education in Bloomfield.
If I can underscore something here, as you go through the plan, what you see highlighted in yellow is new and different. Everything else is pretty much what has been in the previous plan. I just wanted to highlight that point.
Yeah.
It's Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. So on page 3, we do note that this is a living document, and we expect that this plan will change over time in response to student needs and as determined by data. So if I can direct your attention to, I believe it's page 4, defining our work. We have regular components of this plan. Within the Bloomfield Public Schools, defining adults work closely to bring about success for students, and this requires that we hold common, well-defined understandings regarding the language of our work. So below are the key elements and definitions of the 5 focus areas for each of our priorities. So we have continued with our 4 priorities, and we just are clarifying here our core strategies, which are high leverage approaches to a specific course of action designed to address an opportunity. We offer action steps, which are specific sequenced actions adults take in response to prioritized needs. We also include fidelity indicators in the plan. And the fidelity indicators provide evidence to demonstrate the completion of action steps. Our 4th element is indicators of adult progress. And such as, we need to provide evidence that we're making adult progress. And one of those examples will be that our school plans of excellence will be shared on our website and available for people to access. Finally, we have intended outcomes. And one of the big pieces of our plan for the next 3 years through 2021 is that 70% of our students demonstrate mastery. And that is integrated into all facets of our plan. Holistic accountability is our first priority. We have 2 goals for you, and the vision statement is that all educators will work collaboratively across all 3 data team levels. So the district-wide data team, the school-wide data team, and instructional data teams. They'll work together to analyze data, engage in rich discourse around monitoring progress toward achieving district and school accountability goals, and develop high-leverage strategies that lead to changes in adult practice, which result in increased student achievement. Our goals here, that 100% of students will have on track for graduation and/or promotion information shared regularly within their school. Our second goal is that 100% of students will have performance data analyzed by instructional data teams. So our core strategy here is using the data teaming process to look deeply at individual student progress.
Dr. Silva,
Yes, sir.
there's something I want to highlight here relative to the goals here, particularly goal number 2. Data teams. We have data teams at 3 levels. At the district, which is being shared, outcome of the district data team, school data teams, and they operate very similar to the district. They're responsible for developing and implementing their school plan of excellence, and also the grade level as well as the content. And those data teams, they meet on a regular basis. We, central office, attend as many of those as possible. And that's really where important decisions are made relative to the work of the district.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. It's absolutely true. All of our instructional staff participate in data teams. We dig into the data, dig into that student information at the classroom level, the discipline content level at the high school, as well as interdisciplinary data teams, the school-wide data teams, and the district data team. We are all looking at examples of student work and student performance.
A key focus with this plan is that we are monitoring this work and ensuring that 70% of our students meet or exceed grade level expectations and standards. We also have a new process in place where we have trained all of our certified staff in the data teaming process again this year. Myself and two of our, excuse me, two of our other staff, Ross Hansen, who is our 712 math person, and Cindy Valarelli, who is a 6th grade teacher at Carmen A. Race Intermediate, have partnered with me, and we have gone to every school and provided the data teaming training to all of our certified staff. And that's one of the key strategies that we're using this year, as well as monitoring. We have a district location for saving our minutes, our data teaming minutes and agendas, and that team, the Holistic Accountability Priority Team, will be monitoring that information as we move forward to make sure that it's being collected and to understand the work that's happening in those different levels of data teams. Our second priority is rigorous curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And our vision statement here is that the Bloomfield schools will implement a standards-based curriculum, research-based instructional practices, and a rigorous and relevant assessment program across all content areas that effectively contribute to the portrait of the Bloomfield graduate. Our goals for this priority are that 70% of students will meet or exceed the achievement standard as measured by the Smarter Balanced Assessment for students in grades 3 through 8, and that we will develop a portrait of the graduate. So our educators will work collaboratively to create and revise standards-aligned K-12 curriculum that ensures 70% of our students meet and exceed the achievement standards. Additionally, Bloomfield Public Schools is in the process of developing a portrait of the graduate. This collective vision will articulate the community's aspirations for our students. The Bloomfield community will collaboratively design a portrait of the graduate, and a comprehensive plan will be created to incorporate 21st century competencies, which will be adopted by our Board of Education. So the portrait of a graduate is a vision of what the graduating high school student in Bloomfield, what skills and capabilities that student will be able to demonstrate upon graduation. So Ms. McCann is leading a group, is beginning to lead that work, and has identified different elements of this plan to invite our community members in, our families in, our business partners, our local business perspective, as well as post-secondary setting, voices from the post-secondary setting.
In the process for, developing this portrait, will be a process that we implemented some time ago. I would say back in 2012, where we went through that process of developing a vision for the district, where we had a session and we gathered about 65 stakeholders from around the town. And we'll have something very similar to that as we get going and developing the portrait of the graduate.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. So we have, under fidelity indicators, we have a rigorous curriculum design template that we're using that is research-based and proven a best practice. And audits will be completed to assess and examine the curriculum. We are monitoring and evaluating the effective implementation of high effect size instructional strategies using specific adult actions, including, and this is where so much of our work comes in, academic reviews, data teams, classroom observations, analysis of student work samples, and common formative assessment results, as well as TEVAL, teacher evaluation observations, and classroom walkthroughs. In terms of assessment, the tests that are designed and are implemented in our schools and classrooms will align strictly to content standards and frameworks. We will also use scientifically research-based interventions, what is commonly referred to as SRBI. Those practices will be reviewed regularly to monitor effectiveness and learning progress. And for progress and outcomes, all curriculum materials will meet the Ainsworth quality standards for rigorous curriculum design and instructional effectiveness, and a draft of the portrait of the graduate will be completed during the 1920 school year. So as Dr. Thompson mentioned, bringing all of the voices of our community together, we anticipate that we'll have a rough draft of the portrait of the graduate by the end of this year. In terms of instruction, one of our key initiatives, we want to have all classrooms show continuous improvement in fidelity of curriculum implementation and instructional effectiveness. And the curriculum pacing calendars are in the process of, if they're not already created, they're in the process of being created and being provided for every grade and content area. And the district will use assessment data as well as instruments such as the self-reported close reading inventory that was created by our own Dr. Bailey to inform progress. And it asks students to assess their strategies in reading a text. And the percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards will increase to 70% or more. Students will be identified in partnership with school staff for targeted support through SRBI interventions as well as enrichment. Priority 3 is positive school climate. The Bloomfield Public Schools will become a supportive community that demonstrates enthusiasm for learning and respect toward all students, families, and staff. We have for a number of years been working with the National School Climate Standards and providing professional development around positive school climate. One of our transitions with this plan is that we will be surveying our community on an ongoing basis throughout the year regarding climate. So that is a new initiative, and that was informed by research and also best practices, with short, regular surveys being better than a once-a-year measure of climate. So ongoing climate surveys of all families, staff, and students in grades 3 through 12 will provide increased awareness of climate through real-time climate data. And district climate will be analyzed at data team meetings on an ongoing basis to monitor the impact of climate strategies on family, students, and staff experiences. One of our fidelity indicators for this work is that we will offer professional development, and one of the areas that we will focus on is social and emotional learning. Our fourth priority is family and community engagement, and we have 4 goals in this area. 100% of staff will engage in equitable student learning opportunities aligned with family school compacts. So family school compacts is something that we've had in place. We also have partnerships in place. 100% of schools and community partners will engage families in equitable student learning opportunities. One of our partners is the Boys and Girls Club. 80% of our families will feel empowered and liberated to engage teachers as educational partners. And then community partnerships will be sustained and expanded. So the district will strengthen our partnerships with post-secondary, business, and community organizations to create deeper, more engaged relationships to enhance collaboration and student learning opportunities. We will also have annual partnership celebrations, and we anticipate having a partnership breakfast to be held in 2019-20 this year to recognize the significant contributions of our partners. The next series of pages offer an overview of the charts and graphs that we're using that you have around you that would need to be updated. But they offer an overview of the 12 measures that the State Department uses to assess our accountability and to report on our progress through an accountability index. So these are provided to you as well for your reference. And every January, we receive updated information from the State Department that we can use to update these charts. And these represent the most recent charts. One of the things that we've added to this section is that there's more language to describe some of the influence of these indicators, such as on page 13, we talk about academic growth indicators. The Connecticut State Department of Education uses the Smarter Balanced assessment, and the scores are vertically scaled, meaning that a child in 3rd grade is expected to increase their score along the same continuum as they go from 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade and so on. And that is for English language arts and for mathematics, and we have district performance targets there. On page 14, we have chronic absenteeism data, and what's important to know here is when students miss a day of school, they can feel overwhelmed by what they miss, and repeated absences can cause capable students to lag behind their peers. So we deeply appreciate our parents, the efforts that our parents put in to bring our students to school every day. We do staff for 100% attendance every day, and high school graduates, good attendance leads to greater likelihood of high school graduation, and high school graduates experience better health, have higher earnings, and contribute more positively to their community than students who don't complete high school. So we want to make sure that we get our students across that finish line. We have some summary data on page 15 that harkens back to the Bloomfield High School presentation about early college experience courses offered by the University of Connecticut and AP classes. I saw that we have 3 new UConn early college experience classes this year at BHS, and that helps boost our index for college career courses credits in this first graph. And so that is something that the state watches closely. We wrap up with fitness and fine arts access data, followed by a glossary with some new language in there that, that has been incorporated since our last accountability plan. In this is a living document, so we expect that the plan will change over time in response to student needs and as determined by data. So we have 4 overarching strategies this year that we are using to enact this plan that Dr. Thompson shared with you in our last committee meeting. The deployment of central office staff to work directly with school leaders, the expanding academic review to grades 2 through 8. We've expanded the data teaming fidelity to standardized practices, which is part of that comprehensive training of all staff in the area of data teaming. And we're also providing additional personalized professional development to our teachers. That is a very quick overview of the plan.
Mr. Fryman.
Dr. Silver, once again, excellent work. We enjoy always when you come with your reports. Just to double back, one quick question. On absentee levels here, I know we've only been in school, what, 6 weeks at this point?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any indication on, absenteeism in the various schools, high schools?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how have they been at this point?
Okay, so we have, the chronic absenteeism is when a student at the end of the school year misses 10% or more of the school days. So that, if there's 180 days in a school year, if a student misses 18 days, they're considered chronically absent. What we do as a part of our normal practice is that my colleague, Jason Teitelbaum, and I and our central office staff meet on a monthly basis with our principals and provide them a list of names of students who are presenting as candidates for chronic absenteeism already. And we provide the principal with the name of the student, how many days they've missed so far in the school year. We also provide them with how many days and the absentee rate from last year. So it could be that at the beginning of the school year, a student might miss a number of days as an unusual practice. And the principal can see the attendance from last year and know this is unusual. But if it is a pattern with this student, it gives the principal an opportunity to jump right in with some proactive measures, calling home, speaking to mom and dad, even home visits. I know some of our counselors go to homes to meet with parents to find out what can we do to ensure that your child does come to school. So there are actions already we're taking.
And can you give us at some point maybe a little bit of a chart to see how each school is there chronic absenteeism? Because everything is based on making sure our young people are there. Can you give us a graph at some point regarding how is the high school? Is it staying? We're getting more young people going to school. Are there less young people going in particular grades that are not going to school each day? I just want to see where we are with. I know in Hartford, they do quite a lot the first couple of weeks of the opening of their schools, make sure their children are going in there. I just want to make sure we're doing much better than other towns in getting our young people to school.
Well,
It's a comprehensive practice that we have here in Bloomfield. No students fall through the cracks here, and we can provide the board with an update in terms of each month what it looks like at each school at each grade.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
That's something we can do. We have that information.
Other questions? Mrs. Bolden?
So I'm looking at the career and the college and career readiness section. And at one of the other meetings, it was brought to our attention that there were AP classes that had been collapsed or no longer offered. And I'm wondering, for the purpose of the state report here, are the UConn ECE classes weighted the same as AP classes? So when we have the increase of the ECE classes, is that giving us bonus points, or is it about the same as the AP classes?
Yes, I do. So it does help us.
Okay.
We are required to submit a teacher course student file to the State Department every year, and that teacher course student file includes whether or not the course the student is enrolled in is a college credit-bearing course, and whether or not the student qualified to earn that credit. So if it's AP or if it's early college experience, if it's, as Blake mentioned earlier, a dual enrollment course, students, that helps us with this metric.
So are AP classes in the ECE classes weighted the same?
Yes, they are.
Yes,
Thank
they
you.
are.
That's what I was asking earlier.
Yeah, they are.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
portrait of the graduate.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
about that. Talk about that. That's visionary.
That is visionary.
It's a good document. You people, now, how you gonna make that living? Portrait of the graduate.
Yeah, so we have a plan to collect, to talk to our community and get the core essential characteristics and skills that they want to see from every Bloomfield High School, Global Experience Magnet School high school graduate. And that is going to be a process where we work with our community, where we invite people in, and there are many, many characteristics that each individual might want to see of a graduate, but these are skills and dispositions. Stacy, do you want to share any of some of what you're doing, or?
So that graduate will be the model that we're trying to get all our students to achieve to?
Yes, that is correct. There's some great models out there. Well, there's a few, because this is very visionary what we're doing.
Oh, yes.
Okay, in terms of it, and we're going to share with you the very few prototypes
Yeah.
Yes.
that have been developed, okay, and what Bloomfield could look like.
Yep, I would add that it is groundbreaking. It's really taking a look at the 21st century competencies, a student becoming a collaborator, a communicator. You would break down the silos of teaching in classrooms. Students would have opportunities to have educational experiences outside of the classroom. One could take a driver's ed course, and that certificate completion of success could be attributed to a health credit. So there are ways that you can think outside of the box to ensure that this vision of a graduate includes what the real world, multiple pathways, both college and career pathways.
Mr. Walters?
Yeah, and I'm happy to hear that, because what I hear you saying is that these kids will be really a step above the average freshman with this kind of exposure, so they certainly will be definitely college ready.
Absolutely.
And so many times, as a college professor, we come in with our freshmen, and they're just not really ready to be in college. So this really gives them a step up to be fully ready to be a college student with that kind of exposure and autonomy.
Yes.
That's what college is about, autonomy.
Mrs. Davis?
And how is this different from, as a parent of just a recent graduate, we would always have to do a profile for our student. We would go in and meet with it started almost in middle school, where you have talked with the teachers and guidance about the student itself, because this visionary thing that you're saying, a portrait of a graduate, if the student isn't identified at what their needs are, your profile of a graduate may not even be conducive for that person. So if you're setting profiles for your student when you're sitting down and talking with guidance and what your expectations, or knowing your child and it's priority 4, parent and community engagement, because we all should be a part of the process. And that piece that's always been there is no longer going to exist, or how is it going to intertwine?
Absolutely, it will be integrated. So what you're referring to is a student success plan that we start in 6th grade with Naviance, and really
Absolutely.
it's an extension of that, where we're looking at multiple pathways, college and career readiness. And when we talk about engaging our stakeholders, it will be inclusive of students, of parents, of local businesses, of the educators, of the community at large. So everybody's voice will be compiled and agreed upon, this collective vision. As we think about what we want for our kindergartners right now, what do we want them to be able to have when they graduate? So we're talking about pre-K, actually. What do we want to see in our little ones as they get ready to graduate?
Mr. Walters?
Yeah. So, Stacy, Dr. Thompson, remember we did something similar to that several years back. We had the stakeholders to come in.
That was for the vision.
That
That
was
was for the vision.
Vision for our district.
right. And so this time you're going to do similar.
It'd be a similar process.
Right.
But the focus here would be for the portrait, developing the portrait for the student.
Okay. Okay. And so what are some of I see under vision statement, community partnership will be sustained and expanded. Give an example of the community partnership and how that will look.
So I think you're referring to priority 4.
Priority 4,
One of our
vision
goals is to sustain our existing partnerships and to expand. So we have several partnerships under the STEM initiative, where we have as Nuntuck as a partner, EastCon as a partner, UConn, just to name a few. And so this year, under Dr. Thompson's leadership, we're working to expand upon those existing partnerships. We have quite a few folks that we've been engaged with that we're making sure that are in line with our vision. And
so what happens when you establish that partnership?
Let me speak to that.
Please.
I use sustain because we do have a number of very viable partners in a number of categories. We have corporate, we have nonprofit, college, university, and so on. Now, in these times of limited resources, it is so important that we leverage these partners to bring more resources to the district. One particular area is our corporate. I think that's one area that is totally underutilized here in Bloomfield. And so we're in the process right now of meeting with a number of our corporate partners and potential corporate partners so that we can leverage more resources for Bloomfield Public Schools. Okay? And so that's pretty much where we are relative, and that's to sustain. We want to lose
Right,
those that we
right,
already have.
right. You want to add
We
to.
want to add to it and whatnot. But we want to be very strategic as we move forward in expanding this. We want to make sure that that partnership supports, number one,
Right.
our plan. So that's pretty much where we are now.
Is
And
this-
we
is it
have a
not-
number of meetings lined up with, I'll tell you one in particular, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. We have a meeting in about a week or so with the exec director. Because, and I don't mind saying this publicly, because they are very limited in terms of what they're offering relative to grants. But when we look at our needs, okay, it doesn't quite line up with what they're offering, but I think through this meeting, I think when we can really explain what we're trying to achieve here in Bloomfield, that there might be an opportunity for this particular organization to reconsider and provide us with additional resources. So this is where we are right now. It's a pretty aggressive move, but it's needed. You know, I like to tell you about the
This is not just grabbing money, this is grabbing money for a specific purpose.
Purpose, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Makes sense, good.
thank you,
Good.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody.
Family Resource Center grant, Ms. McCann.
Good evening again. Just so that the television viewing and live audience understands, Bloomfield Public Schools has a Family Resource Center, which is housed at Laurel Elementary School. Our Director of Family Resource Center is here tonight, Ms. Gail Nolan. Welcome. We have been the recipient of this grant for over 20 years. We receive approximately $100,000 from the State Department of Education to support the town of Bloomfield. The supports and resources include home visits for parents for children birth to 3, developmental and social and emotional screenings for students, working with the home daycare providers in our town, facilitating parenting groups, assisting the schools with programs such as the Diaper Bank, Transition to Kindergarten Committee. And then we also have some support staff who assist Ms. Gail Nolan. And so tonight, we are seeking your official endorsement, the Board of Ed, for your support of this application.
Okay, Mr. Walters.
I move that the Bloomfield Board of Education approve the submission of the Family Resource Center grant application.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any questions?
Yes, we discussed this
Go right ahead.
at our
Committee meeting, yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Are there any questions out there? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstentions? It is so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 2 policies to present tonight for an initial reading. Dr. Silver will do the first one, and Mr. Guzman will do the second one.
Thank you. Good evening again. This is policy number 5144.4, physical exercise and discipline of students. And this comes about, I think, in an interest to ensure that students have undirected play in excess of 20 minutes daily for physical exercise. The policy that you have, we reviewed during our policy committee, and the changes to the updates to our physical exercise and discipline of students policy include that the board requires that each student in elementary school shall not have not less than 20 minutes daily in total devoted to physical exercise, beyond the required 20 minutes for physical exercise devoted to undirected play during the regular school day, subject to the approval of building administration. And this strikes from the policy in recess or in other sustained opportunities for physical activity during classroom learning. So this is really about ensuring students have time for undirected play. And this brings us in compliance with new legislation. So that is, the changes to this policy bring us in compliance. And also do mandate that any employee who fails to comply with the policy will be subject to disciplinary action. That is an overview of the policy.
Thank you. As Mr. Ike would say, we have vetted both of these policies in our committee meetings, but as per our policy, they come before us in committees, and then here again at a full board meeting. They will go back to committee at the end of this month, and then we will vote on them at the second reading at our first meeting in November. Any questions on the first policy, physical exercise and discipline of students? Okay, thank you. Mr. Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. This is policy 6159, individualized education program, special education program instruction. This policy is revised because of an enactment of Public Act 19-49, an act concerning transitional services for children. As we mentioned at the September 24th Policy Committee meeting, the Act requires that the first individualized education program, IEP, for a child who is 14 years old and diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, to include, the IEP to include appropriate measurable post-secondary goals, and 2, transition services, including courses of study needed to assist the child in reaching those goals. Under the Act, the post-secondary goals are based on age-appropriate transition assessments related to training, education, employment, and where appropriate, independent living skills. The policy itself, as I mentioned at the September 24th meeting, there was some language that we incorporated in the revision that was not part of the Public Act mandate, but language that we incorporated to bring the policy up to date. Page C, the fourth paragraph in, is new language, and it talks about the making the provisions for the PPT. To make recommendations concerning provisions of special ed and related services during a PPT meeting shall not be disciplined. A teacher or a participant in the PPT shall not be disciplined, suspended, or otherwise punished for making recommendations at that meeting. And further on into the policy on page G, you have the language that talks about the age 14 being the new age for beginning the IEP for the children that meet the conditions of this Public Act. Again, we recommend bringing this policy to the second meeting of the Policy Committee at the end of the month.
Okay. Any questions, follow-up questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guzman. CABE update. CABE, which again, Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, they have multi-programs that are going on. Upcoming is the CABE CAPS, which is the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendent Convention down in Mystic, Marriott, November 15th and 16th. What I do want to point out to you, it was real interesting to me, real gratifying to me. I was at a meeting at CABE last week, last week, and talking to some staff members there, and they talked about how outstanding Dr. Thompson's administrative assistant was, and that she would be coming there next week to do a workshop for other superintendent administrative assistants. So that's Krista Cherry, and she did it today. And I've already got some messages from CABE staff that she did an outstanding job. So
We're not surprised.
I told them she's willing to come down and do all the workshops, just don't try to take her away.
Right.
Because then they'll have troubles. So, any questions on CAPE? Okay. Board comments. Mr. Ike?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and to Dr. Thompson.
Let me say before you begin, I want to duly note, today is the last full board meeting for Mr. Walters, because he's not seeking re-election. Though I tried to twist his arm in 10 different ways, 8 years he has been in this position, and so today is his last full board meeting. That doesn't excuse you from the committee meetings. And so I will see you.
Crystal's already told me.
I will see you in 2 weeks, okay? But just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Go ahead, Mr. Ike.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Thompson, and your staff, we do a lot of work we do here is at the committee level, which a lot of people don't see because they don't attend and it's not televised. We had a very, very good committee meeting where we actually met with the principals on the Smarter Balance results. It was we went head to head, toe to toe. We took the document apart and we really heard from the administration. So I want to thank you, Dr. Thompson, that the whole month since then, I've been thinking about the role of the principal and how the principal is, that's when you grow up, you just principal, what's the principal? Principal is on the front line, calling shots, a lot of responsibility academically as the principal. So I just want to recognize the principals. They did a very good job. And to my colleague, who I've known since 1980, he graduated from North Carolina A&T. He's also part of the Divine Nine. He's also good friends with my former fraternity brothers, educator himself, Edward Mitchell, and also another good Morehouse friend of mine, Tony Kelly. So I know Michael, but I really got to know him in the last 8 years. I too am very sad to see you go. I enjoyed working with you, and I wish you and your wife the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I want to thank our staff, Dr. Silver. Excellent job as always in presentation. Hopefully the folks at home can see all the hard work that our staff does in preparation and making sure we have the data that we can present to our parents, to our residents. So once again, good job. I also wanted to mention that, here it's already October, but the year goes by so fast. And for young people that are going to graduate and are still looking to see what they're going to do afterwards, now's the time to make sure if you're going to be taking an SAT exam or maybe going into the military, now's the time before you graduate to figure out what you want to do. And if there's something that we can still help you with, it's still important for you to utilize everything that we can offer here at the school system. Additionally, I know at our last meeting we had a lot of parents here. I see a few in the audience, but I wish we saw more. I know the budget's going to be coming up soon, and we would like to see more of our parents participating and asking us questions so we can hopefully have the information for you. I also want to thank staff for making sure that we took care of some issues with our kindergarten classes, that we had additional staff participate and get those classes down smaller. And lastly, Michael, I guess we're all going to have a little share with you. But it's been a pleasure knowing you for the last 6 years and sitting on the board with you. So, and of course, I've always enjoyed your wonderful gift of clothing and having a proper outfit for every project we've ever gone to. So once again, all the best, and well, I'm sure we'll see you around town.
Perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Mrs. Davis.
I'd just like to say commend the staff and all the work that they're doing, and I just, I'm never a Debbie Downer or a doubt, but we got a lot of work to do. Our district is really striving, and we continue to strive, and we have to all be committed to what we are charged to do and make sure that we're doing what's best for our students more than anything else. And I feel like we are moving in the right direction. And again, I'll say this, we have a lot of work to do. And again, I'm going to emphasize that kindergarten classes, that we really have to put a diligent effort over there if we expect our students to be as a model, like you're saying, about profiling for a graduate or what a graduate should look like. And if we don't catch them in kindergarten, they're going to be lost. And I'm going to continue to say that every opportunity I get to come before you, I will say that, because I understand how important that really is. And I think all of us around the table do. So if we really understand, we have to make a diligent effort to make it happen. We have to make it happen with our kindergartens. To Mike, I know I got to know you well over these past few years here, and I really admire you. I respect you. But I feel sorry that now Pam is going to have to be home with you. I know she'll probably be happy to see you, but you've taught me a lot, and I respect you, all the things and the knowledge you've given me when sometimes I've said some things that I shouldn't have. I really appreciate you correcting me in the respectful manner that you've done, and I will always respect you for your role here on the Board of Education.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Mrs. Bolton?
Yes, thank you. I would like to begin by just saying I certainly appreciate the energy that our two high school representatives brought to the table and will continue to do this year. And someone did an awesome job of selecting, firesome personalities. So I really appreciate that. It was very easy to hear what was going on in the high school. I really appreciate that. Dr. Thompson, I appreciate all the hard work and the leadership that you bring to the table that will allow our ladies and gentlemen to offer such wonderful presentations and on the clarity and the in-depth work there. In addition to that, I'm hoping that you're able to find a way to support the youngest members of our school system. When Mr. Bill Guzman, thank you. When Mr. Guzman mentioned the increase in special education, it made me think about the burden that happens with classroom teachers when they have 18 children who perhaps have not had education, and then to have the increase perhaps of students who have special needs, that it becomes a real big issue. So I'm confident that you will find a way to provide the support that those classes may need. And finally, I'm near tears thinking that my buddy in crime is going to be leaving. Mr. Walters, I met him when I first moved to Connecticut nearly 30 years ago. And, okay, I won't go that far. But
These people in dates and years, just say.
something about that. But I think I most remember Mr. Walters as the PTO president when I was principal at Carmen A. Reese Middle School. He fired the parents up and really was a very, very strong and focused leader at that time. And then to come back and to be his next door neighbor on the Board of Education, you've been a great inspiration to me and a positive participant and, certainly a Board of Ed member, partner. And then, but most of all, you've demonstrated your knowledge, you have demonstrated your focus, laser-like focus on students and your love for our town. So I just want to congratulate and thank you for being here, and hope whatever happens now in terms of your civic responsibilities, I hope that you just remember us who are still here in your time.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to go out of order this time, and I'm going to go and I'll let Mr. Walters finish it up. But my thank you goes out also to the staff, because, you know, we take a look, they are the ones that are really doing the hard work behind the scenes. And they are the ones that are preparing these presentations for the parents, for the citizens of the town, and for us. And I can't thank you enough for the job that you do every day. And to my buddy, Michael. See, I've known Michael, I'm not sure how long.
And that's okay. You don't have to
Yeah.
say. It's all right.
But you know, you mentioned Pam, and I had Pam as a student at Bloomfield High.
Yes, he did.
Pam is a orange and blue warhawk, dear to her heart. But
She taught him how to dress, too.
I'm sure she did.
Oh, no, she didn't. No, she didn't.
But I was a part of the administrative staff over at Carmen A. Race with Mrs. Bolton, and when Michael was running the show with the PTOs, and you know, he just does so many things to make your job that much easier. To my fellow member of the Divine Nine, and we'll explain it to y'all one day, what that is, but that's a good thing. I'm going to miss you, Michael. We've been together for 8 years. 8 years. And it's been good having you to my side. And but if I'm not going to say any more because I got to save some things to say to you at the meeting, on the committee meeting. So I don't want to use them all up. Okay.
Right.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. First of all, I too, Mrs. Bolton, enjoyed the students' presentation this evening, and I commented on that because I think they enjoyed doing the presentation.
Yes.
As a professor of public speaking and communications, you can tell when someone is enjoying what they are doing. And you could see those two students were enjoying providing us with that presentation. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm sorry I'll be missing that as time goes on. However, I want to thank Dr. Thompson, first and foremost, because he was in part a motivator for me even considering running for the Board of Education. And we had long conversations before it happened, but he was certainly a motivator. And I probably known Dr. Thompson when I first came to Connecticut from North Carolina A&T State University, and we did not meet in an educational setting. But we established a rapport and a friendship, and it is carried from that environment to this environment. And the leadership that you provided to this district, you know, it certainly goes beyond Bloomfield. It's talked about everywhere we go. And so I encourage you to continue doing the good work that you're doing. In addition to that, your cabinet members, the people that you hired to work with you, Bethany Silver, Stacy McCann, Alyssa Pierce. I don't know Mr. Guzman's first name, so Mr. Guzman. William Guzman, Anne Marie. Those individuals, I mean, they have worked tirelessly. When there's an evening event at the high school or the elementary school, when they could, I think, be home, they are there. They show up at those events because we've been there together and we talk about it. We've had good times in terms of a relationship and a collaboration. It's been 8 years, and I certainly appreciate each one of you. In addition to appreciating the cabinet members and how we've engaged each other and supported each other, Mrs. Cherry, Krista Cherry, I mean, that woman, she calls me, she leaves me messages, she reminds me of things that I need to do and be prepared for. And when you have a good administrative assistant, you know, you got something that's valuable. So, Ms. Cherry, I thank you. I thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. And she certainly supplies me with good pens, and I will miss that. To this board, to my colleagues, Mr. Ike, yes, you've told the whole story, so I don't need to repeat it. Ms. Davis, you all also brought in Pam. Ms. Davis and Pam became cut buddies at the Cape Convention, and so they just really tight. Mrs. Bolton, yes, you and I have history together. That was a good time back in the day when we were much younger and our children were young, and we had a lot of energy, and you know, as time goes on, those kinds of things happen. Mr. Harris, you know, Mr. Harris is a pillow in the Bloomfield town and in the educational system. And, you know, I met Mr. Harris when I first came to Connecticut, and my wife would go, "That's Mr. Harris. He was the blah, blah, blah." I said, "Okay, big deal." And then I got to meet him, and it is a big deal. So, you know, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience, 8 years. But, you know, when it's time to go, it's time to go. And in spite of all the wonderfulness, I just made up a word, it's time for me to go. You know, my season has come and is ending. And I just thank you for the kind words that you've said. I thank you for being a support to me. And I'm certain our paths will cross as we continue this journey. So thank you very much. And I certainly continue wishing this district only good things. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
No objection.